Greetings. My name is Michael Miller. This is a Michael Miller trademark training video after you because you're watching. Welcome and thank you. It's meant for Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates, the core, new core, and anyone interested in surviving and thriving as a Pilates instructor. And so I've got way too much to talk about today. 6 things today, like a turkey. Gobble, gobble. 6 things today, and the first one is a reach back to yesterday's broadcast about not wanting to be boring. And I don't know that I said enough about how much your delivery of your words becomes a polished poem, that you're always open to improving and polishing and deviating from, but having something that so well serves you in terms of words that you deliver to get the best result out of or from your student or students. And specifically, I mean in teaching a math class. So, repeat. I'm repeating my message about recognizing your repetition becomes familiarity. And the point I wanted to make is that when you're delivering your words with confidence and familiarity, because you're so familiar with them, your students can assume a familiarity through you to the words. And when you repeat yourself like a stanza in a poem, it allows the student, because they're familiar with the words they're hearing, to reach for it or make better effort in doing it because they feel familiar with your words. Every time you say it differently, someone has to interpret those words and then make response to the actions. And if the words are coming familiar, you leap into going deeper in your effort because you believe you're familiar with the words that are coming. Right? Just like sign language does that. If you don't do sign in your courses, if you don't learn some real sign so that people that sign for a living can recognize legitimate sign, and then hopefully some of that, right? Lean on that to get sign for what matters to you when you are delivering your words. And of course, I'm speaking as a Pilates instructor, whether it's as an individual student, but more importantly, most focused in the moment about your delivery of words as an instructor of the mat. Because in MMP, the mat flows, and the quality of your cueing either enhances the flow or makes it non-existent or sporadic. So that's what I wanted to say about repeat. That was number 1. Oh, I did have a story to attach to that. A long time ago, probably before ever Pilates came into my life, and I heard a story about a preacher that was frustrated with his lack of turnout, and so he decided to focus on just 10 sermons, or maybe 12 sermons, 1 each month, and he would deliver that same sermon once a month. And it became so familiar, I think, my interpretation of the story is because people were not only able to understand it deeper because they were familiar with it, they were able to anticipate what was coming and be gratified by having what was anticipated actually happen in terms of how the story is told. Let me move on. Number 2. Your mat class delivery and your carousel delivery, or 2 deliveries I would recommend you polish. So not just your ability to instruct a mat class, but also your ability to deliver a presentation. And know your presentation well enough in broad general strokes that you can hit a beginning, middle, and end, you know, in 3 seconds or 10 seconds or 30 seconds or 30 minutes, depending upon what you have. But know the nature of the carousel. And by me referring to it as a carousel, when you look down on a carousel, it moves counterclockwise. When you look down on a merry-go-round, it moves clockwise. And so I choose carousel because as a person that reads language from left to right, I'm more familiar with trying to absorb something reading from left to right. And so I choose the image of carousel because it fits my culture. But if your culture reads from right to left, I would by all means call it a merry-go-round, because in attempting to achieve the benefits of being familiar, this is based on spaced repetition as a means of absorbing information. You're exposed to it, it goes away, and then you're exposed to it, it goes away, and it's that spaced repetition, just like when you watch a carousel come around left and go by, but disappears before you can see everything or get it all, and it's gone. And then when it comes around again, familiar things stick out, and yet there's more, and again it's gone. And yet twice maybe you're ready for or looking for where you want to see more detail as it goes by, and yet still it's gone. So evidently, it's human nature to be able to absorb something through their sense of familiarity with it, at least part of that. And at least this is a strategy for instructing as an MMP instructor. With that in mind, that familiar develops control. Familiar develops control. And our target is contrology. And so being able to deliver cueing in your language, in sign language, in another language, and have it well worked out and polished as best you can to do what? To facilitate the flow of the movement. Right? The carousel delivery, recognizing that I've seen it many, many times, where you put a person or a whole group of people at ease when you tell them you're going to go over this, like watching a carousel go by. And so I'm going to say that it's going to go by several times. And everybody relaxes. Because you're saying just sit back and watch it go by, because it's going to keep going by. And you'll pick out what you want to from what happens when it goes by. Now, in the case of the MMP carousel, I guess, michaelmillerpilates carousel, it's an attempt at explaining the point of view. And so as the instructor, I get more relaxed, or the presenter, I get more relaxed knowing that I'm really just presenting things that will go by repeatedly, and that will make more sense as that repetition occurs. And I'll say for another time discussion of, or the presentation of the carousel, but that's the other delivery. My Udemy course, How to Survive as a Pilates Instructor, it's like 15 bucks, and all you get are like 5 videos, but that's Joe's definition, Joe's promise, Joe's sequence. The definition of core and tension, and the definition of the ideal, according to MMP. So being polished in your delivery, then number 3 is, there you are, being Yoda. And now I think this is purely a reference to the MMP point of view, in that spirit is observing and the instructor calls upon the student's capacities of being, thinking, and observing. The instructor is Yoda, long-eared Yoda, sending the student into the cave, right, of their own sensation that they can listen to and take more control from. So, granted that this is just, and it's recognized, one little point of view of Pilates, and there's 10,000 other ways to look at it, and large fricasees of Pilates that have their own nature and texture within it. So within the MMP point of view, there you are, being Yoda, as the instructor, being aware of, being, thinking, and observing as what you're trying to coordinate within your student. That's how a 9-hour day goes by without even pausing. Well, you maybe take some water and eat a couple power bars or some fruit or things that keep you going, but in terms of focused concentration and delivering what it takes to be a Pilates instructor. Should I talk about that now? Just to fill the time. Just to seem like you know what you're doing. Just to feel like you know what you're doing. To not be boring. For me, just knowing that I'm trying to empower a student to perform Joe's mat on their own in the pursuit of the complete coordination of my body, mind, and spirit in the doing. You know? It's not only what you do, but how you do it. And in that regard, to me, an MMP, in the pursuit of the ideal, your target is ideal. And then what comes out of that ideal effort is what becomes real. And for all of us, that's a humbling experience. But in the reach of the ideal, and having a sensory listening can feel kind of alignment. All right, so number 4. This is a quote when I said, roll back to where you're flat on your back on the Cadillac, holding the spring bar, just rolling back, and someone said something to the effect of, I don't know what that feels like. And for me, I'm talking about that not in mockery, but in acknowledgement that for whatever reason, or cause that goes out of reason or comes before reason, but for why ever, a human being may not have an intellectual connection with their sensation in a means of perception that you call upon them to make a distinction in. Long way to say that, but that's what I mean. Now, how to tell a difference. And so this plugging in of our listening to our thinking and our being that we are, as an instructor, it's a recognition that humans exercise those three particular capacities, not all the others that we address, but within Pilates, body, mind, and spirit, and Michael Miller, being, thinking, and observing, just those three capacities, and that's Michael Miller's word for those characteristics or capabilities in the body, in the human being. Now, there's all kinds of others. I'm not being exclusive. I'm just saying that for MMP, the instructor is aiming for complete coordination of those three capacities. In a world where you will encounter human beings that have extreme variations in the degree of capacity that someone is aware of, let alone their ability to call it into play, to use it. Use your mind when you do this. Use your observing when you do this. Be in your body, feel your body. Be connected. Be observing. So, that was my number 5, was your capacity to be, your capacity to think, your capacity to observe. It's about a state of being in your body in the moment of the doing, from the MMP point of view. And so, as the instructor, aware of MMP, hopefully the distinction of where Joe's definition turns into the MMP point of view will be clear enough for you that you can see and know what is totally classical and know what stands upon it, or how, in this case, MMP as a point of view stands upon it. My last thing today, number 6. There goes the turkey. Adductors complete the grip at the hip, which takes me to number 7, which is wake me up in 40-40. On social media, I see somebody trying to help show what it takes to do a roll-up. And it's very Halloween-esque because it's just a skeleton and some arrows and some description and somebody saying, oh no, that'll kill you. And I would want you to recognize that it's intrinsic to the way you use your body when you do Pilates, is you try to make it a whole body effort. And that, see, there's this huge, here's normal level, and there's this huge leap up into admitting or acknowledging, however distasteful or pungent it is, that the body has not only rotation at the hips, but throughout it elsewhere interconnected. The reason I'm talking about that all now is just in terms of doing the roll-up. Fill up with air. Curl around your ears without lifting your weight off the weight of your head off the floor. So you rotate around your ears, which makes the back of your neck long. It makes the grip around your ears. Eventually draw your head up off the ground, right? Till you look up and into your navel, creasing at your sternum, and you stop there. Open your mouth. So that was all an exhale. Fill up with air. Now, push out through your ankles. Squeeze your inner thighs together to cause your exhale. And from that effort, roll up. So the cueing and all that is squeeze your inner thighs together to cause your exhale. In other words, establish your grip, and from your grip, drive your breath. So the hip grip, rotation at the hips, and that's what takes me to number 7. Wake me up in 40-40, because it may not be till then that humanity is caught up enough with what's already been pointed out. My opinion, just my opinion. That for you today in 2018, you can know that the hips, the core, the powerhouse is literally a grip at the hips. And that physiologically you accomplish that, and you deepen that ability to make that grip through the adduction of the inner thighs, squeezing the inner thighs together. That's why I place in a brick. Do we still have a brick in the area? That's why I place in a brick between the inner thighs. That's something solid that you can get engagement off of. It's like helping wind up your spring as deeply and as tightly as you can. It's very refining in the ability it gives you to have a point of resistance. I like it not at the knees, but between the thighs, so that it's a muscular interaction, not just a bony one. You know, at the crowns of the femur. So, okay, I gotta try to do this again, YouTube, and it took me forever, in Facebook. It took me forever to get it out there. Thank you if you're a listener out on YouTube. Watch it while you can, because inevitably all things come to an end or get multi-purposed or get withdrawn to get repurposed. So in light of that, if you're in any of these recordings, backtrack and pick up more of them so you can anticipate what's being said, because you have it right here in the palm of your hand. Life can't live forever. Read between the lines. See behind the curtain. Add 2 and 2. Direct your own thinking. Geist.